Thank you very much, and welcome once again to the arena in which four writers who live by the word will try not to perish by the word. And those writers are, of course, Dilys Powell, Frank Muir, Antonia, Fraser, and Denis Norden. And we start by trying to diagnose some meeting places. Frank, on the 18th of June, 1746, two men sat down to a business breakfast at the Golden Anchor near Holborn Bar in London. Who were they, and what was the nature of their business?
It could be which footman and which schoolmaster met to have breakfast with results and discuss the sum of £1,575.
Was it? You obviously know.
It must have been probably the first, but certainly the most successful working breakfast ever. It was when a chap called Dodsley, Robert Dodsley, who was a bookseller, ex-footman, presented a contract on behalf of 5 colleagues to Samuel Johnson to write his dictionary, which he then did, which took 9 years, with 6 assistants, which sounds terrible. When you consider that for the French, it took 40 academics 40 years to do theirs. Not a bad breakfast, that, was it?
2 marvellous marks of... Antonia, a First World War soldier, Alan Seeger, had a premonition that he would be killed, which sadly proved to be true. Can you quote the lines he wrote foretelling where he would meet what?
Is it an airman? Oh, it's not an airman.
No, it's...
He was an American, wasn't he, Alan Seeger? He was an American...
I have a rendezvous with death, is the first line, at some... Dumpty-Dumpty-Dump.
Disputed barricade.
Well done.
Well done, Dennis.
Well done.
We'll give you the 2 marks to this side. Dilys, who, when asked where she and her companions should again rendezvous, replied, upon the Heath, and whom did they all expect to meet there?
That must be Macbeth.
It must be. Who were they going to meet?
The meeting of the 3 witches. We're going to meet Macbeth.
You get 1 point for Macbeth, and it was one of the 3 witches. You have to tell me which witch it was that... I'll give you 3 guesses.
There were 3 of them. I can only have the name of the...
Go for something
I can
moderate.
have the name of the cat, was Grimalkin.
No, you just have to say first, second, or third. First, second, or third.
Oh, first witch.
No. Try
Wasn't
again.
it? No.
No.
Second?
Second, that's it. Two marks to Dilys. Denis, on January the 1st, 1881, 2 gentlemen are alleged to have met by chance in the Criterion Long Bar, not very far from this theatre. Who were they, and what resulted from their encounter?
That wasn't the start of my word, was it?
That was 1882.
Yeah.
Not if they were gentlemen.
I don't know.
Well, the party who was only there in spirits and really created the meeting had been a general practitioner in Southsea.
Oh, is it Conan Doyle, then? Is it?
He arranged this rendezvous, and the 2 gentlemen who met there, who could they be?
Well, would that be Holmes and Watson? Would they have met?
They would be.
Did they? Wasn't that what I remember about that? I believe I remember. It's awful. Please don't write and tell me if I'm wrong. But it's somewhere in the whole Sherlock Holmes canon where he greets somebody, and I've got an idea it's his opening line to Watson, which I think is one of the great kind of icebreakers if you're meeting somebody for the first time, is, "I see you have been in Afghanistan." which I think, because, how did you find that out, Watson? Because it's on your luggage, maybe. But it wasn't. It was a very difficult way that he elucidated it.
You've got one mark, but Holmes met in the long bar another doctor who introduced him to Watson. And it's commemorated, apparently, with a plaque on the wall of the bar.
No, that bit.
The other doctor?
No.
Dr. Stamford, it was. Anyway, one mark to Denis. Now, before we go on to round 2, here are Frank and Denis are the quotations you were given for the last round. Frank's is, "Try a little tenderness," and Denis's is, "Silence gives consent," an extremely elderly proverb cited both by Euripides and Plutarch. And meanwhile, we have a major intellectual challenge, or at least I always found it so when I had to face it in The Wizard, or was it the Hotspur? And indeed, our industrious word setter, Peter Moore, has dug out the actual questions set in an 1881 edition of the Girl's Own Paper.
What was he doing reading that?
Well, they hadn't got the 1882 one that he was after. Now, I must ask, we have a special rule for this. You have to put down your BBC pens and pencils because you have to do it all inside your head, because you've got to find the animal that's hidden in the following sentence.
It's in a tree, is it?
That's the one that you used to have to find in the drawing. This is in the sentence.
Oh, sorry.
And your sentence, Frank, is, "Impossible, he came looking for trouble." Find an animal in that sentence.
The os. Failing the os, the bull.
The trouble.
Impossible.
Yeah. I thought it was the trouble. I'd have given you a mark for the trouble, but not for the impossible.
What was the line again?
Impossible, he came looking
They're always
for trouble.
connected, aren't they? Possibly Hicker came... camel.
Camel.
Sir, camel.
Two marks for Frank. Antonia, "A woolly lamb is one of my pets."
I've got a shrewd suspicion the word lamb is hit there.
Lamb. It's the word lamb is one of my pets.
But a lamb is an animal.
Lamb is an animal.
Lamb is an animal.
Yes. Oh, well, that's hardly hidden in the sentence.
Well, there's no knowing what Peter Moore would
It may
do.
be. Can you have a go at the hidden animal?
But I demand my...
We'll give you a hidden mark for the obvious animal. Now you get a real mark for the hidden animal.
Can you say it very slowly?
A woolly lamb is one O-N-E of my pets.
I have a shrewd suspicion it's bison.
It could be. 2 marks for Antonia. Dilys, he made errors on purpose.
He made errors.
On purpose. And you're making notes on your pad.
Dear.
Well done, Dilys. 2 marks. Now, for Denis, we have 2 hidden animals.
Oh.
And your sentence is,
Dear.
"Well, I only got terrified out of my wits."
Well, if this was television, you'd have it all come up in wonderful graphics across my chest, wouldn't you? Well, I suspect there's something in that.
Yeah,
well I only is I on. Yes, now, what's the next bit? Well,
I only got terrified.
It's a gotter. It's a gotter.
A gotter.
It's a gotter is a very wealthy otter.
It's a client, a Welsh lion. Yeah. Well, I only, and a gotter. 2 marks to Denis. Now we come to an even sterner test of the intellect. On the 26th of June, 1862, it's a century we've been buzzing around a lot today, a Mr. Josiah Bugg B-U-G, announced in the Times that he wished henceforth to be known as Mr. Norfolk Howard. Following his example, by what names, Christian and surname, would each of you choose as more expressive of your highly individual personalities? So that if you had to write a letter to the Times tomorrow, Frank, who would you choose to be?
I quite like there's a village, isn't there, further along the road from me, called Hartley-Wintney, which has a kind of thing to it, isn't it? My introduce my friend Hartley-Wintney, or kind of moves. And also the West Country is full of lovely ones. Your friend of mine, Woodley Salterton. Or I could change my name to A and Other, because then I play in a lot of cricket matches.
I think that Hartley-Wintney would go in at number 4, though. I think I can see him a rather jovial character. No, we'll allow you...
Salterton.
Budley Salterton, scorer, really. Anyway, Antonia, what name would you choose to change to?
Well, I must tell you, when I was 8 years old, on my birthday, I decided Antonia was a mouthful, which it certainly is. Also, in those days, I was called Antonia Pakenham, which was an even worse mouthful. So I decided to change my name to Daisy. And I wouldn't answer for every question that I was asked, pass the batter, Antonia. You've got to say pass the batter, Daisy, until my brothers and sisters got absolutely fed up and declined. But I've still got some books in which I wrote Daisy Pakenham. So I think I have to choose Daisy. But, of course, Daisy Fraser would have been awful, wouldn't it? So it's just as well. So I think I'd just be Daisy, then it would be a quick signature.
Do you realise that Antonia contains a hidden animal?
If you want us to call you Daisy, I mean, we would be happy to oblige.
Every now and then, perhaps.
Oh, right, you are, Daisy. Dilys, what name would you choose?
Well, it's awfully boring of me. I rather like my name. It's a Welsh name, and I am Welsh. And I once asked somebody what it meant. And they said it really meant without guile. So I
think you ought to change it,
choose
then.
to stick to it. But if I had to stick to it, looking round the present company, I think it'd be nice to be called, I don't know, Frank or Denis, or perhaps it'd be nice to have the name of a beautiful girl who knows all the answers, Antonia.
Now, flattery will win you marks on this programme. Well done. Denis.
When Frank and I were writing together, names were the biggest cause of dissension between... they're also the biggest hold-up. I mean, we'd have the idea for the whole script, except for what to call the people. And I said, well, it doesn't matter. Well, you call him Derek. And I don't see him as a Derek. And I always used to think that the best part about writing your autobiography must be that you don't have to think up a name for the main character. But our favourite name, I wonder if you can remember this, Frank, was we did a story about a rather seedy sort of second-hand car salesman with a dead carnation in the buttonhole, and he was rather good at ballroom dancing, and he would sort of prey on tea dances and things, and would introduce himself to these rather soiled girls there and say, my name is Trent Nugent. And we had a line where the girl said, Trent, that's a lovely name. He says, French, it's French for 30.
Do you have trouble with names of characters, Antonia? Do you get the same problem that they have?
Yes, when I'm writing a Jemima Shaw mystery, I find that I go for one particular initial. I don't mean to. One book, I found everybody's name began with C. So I had Christabel and Colin and everything. So I said, I've got to. So I altered them all to W, which wasn't much better.
Jamie Priestley used to take all his from the AA book. They were all place names. Really to try and protect himself from libel.
When I was a proper doctor and a GP, I used to go to visit a caravan site about halfway between where I live now and where you live, and people used to give their caravans the most sort of extraordinary names that they'd never put on houses. I remember there was a family called Macbeth, and they had the literary caravan. They called it Cawdor, which I thought was nice. But there was a family called the Salts, and I could never face writing down the address. They called their caravan the Cruet.
Near Hartley Wintney, there's a terribly nice little place in a hollow called Bishop's Bottom. There were two ladies there who changed the name of their cottage to The Dimples. So you wrote to Miss Harrington, The Dimples, Bishop's Bottom.
Well, we now move on to Frank's quotation, which is, "Try a little tenderness."
I've been going Greek, but very interested in things Greek, because there's London Greek Week. Did you go to it? I went to the Ideal Homer exhibition, which is absolutely fascinating. The catalogue was very good. It was sort of in verse, and it was the Inner London Index of Antique Dynasties, Iliad. It was. And I went... A very interesting thing about old... not only Greek, in fact, but all those old people was they went in pairs, didn't they? It was Shakespeare was Romeo and Juliet, and the Two Gentlemen of Verona, and Mustard and Cressida in the play. And there was Galton and Simpson. And I looked everybody up, particularly the Greek pairs, in a lovely list I've got. It's called the Pairs Cyclopedia. And I got very interested in two Greeks called Achilles and Ajax. And there was a time of the Trojan Wars. Now, I won't bore you with a lot of historical... I don't know, I might as well. Nothing else to do for the next 8 minutes. Well, you see, the Trojan Wars, there were the Greeks who were the invaders. And the Greek general was a very clever man who invented the cooker used in most country cottages. His name was Agamemnon. And, Agamemnon had a brother who was also a clever man, and he invented battery egg production. And he was called Menelaus. And Menelaus had a wife, a very pretty wife, called Helen. In those days, because they didn't have champagne, it hadn't been invented, so they used to have Toby jugs with Helen's face on, and they used to bash those against ships to launch them. She launched 1,000 of them that way. She ran off to Paris, not to Paris, France, but a bloke called Paris, who lived in Troy. So all the Greeks came to get her back again, you see, including our hero, Achilles. Now, Achilles was a funny bloke because the fates had ordained that he'd die young. To stop this, his mummy, when he was quite a baby, dunked him in the River Styx, which would make him immortal. And the River Styx actually was a bit colourful at the time because they dyed some clothes purple for royalty just upstream, and they poured the old dye back in. But anyway, she dunked the baby in, holding him by his ankle, by the little tendon at the back of his ankle, and dunked him in. And when she pulled up and said, "You will not die now, baby, you're inviolate." except for one tiny bit on his ankle where his tendon was. Now, he grew up knowing that he was fated to die young. But he was a bloodthirsty lad, you see, and he was the one who led the Greeks into Troy, fight, and they got repulsed by the Trojans. And they said, let's do it again, Achilles. And he said, yes, we must. He said, go in, send a messenger in, and ask them to secede. If not, we sweep in again and again. He said, go on, send a man in, and if at first they don't secede, it's Troy. But his friend Ajax was very wise and said, you know you're fated to die young. He said, isn't there some way, supposing I go to the old soothsayer, Ezra the Pound. Suppose I go to Ezra, he's a bit expensive, but if I go to Ezra and ask him to dribble the corn out of his chicken's beak to be able to foretell the future, if I ask him where you're fated to die and which bit of you is going to be the bit that's going to cause your death, you'll be all right. And so Achilles said, right, off you go. And off he went. Meanwhile, Achilles, like a full hothead that he was, led the Greeks into Troy again in borrowed armour, with his boots too small. Now, steel boots are terribly uncomfortable. And he had this blister on his heel. So in the middle of Troy, like an idiot, he takes the boot off, and there's whack, there's a poisoned arrow, hits him in the ankle, just on that little tendon which his mummy had gripped to make him inviolate. And he was lying there dying, and Ajax came back and said, I've got the answer. So what do you mean? He said, well, old Ez, the soothsayer, I've got it here. It tells you where you're going to die and how you're going to die, what you're going to die of. And poor Achilles there, sobbing his last, says, what does the message say? And he said, well, it says, Troy, a little tendon Ez.
Thank you, Frank, proving the Greeks have a pun for it. Denis, silence gives consent.
It was only a very slight variant of that line which achieved something very rare. It got me interested in an item of scientific news. Now, normally it's anything to do with scientific matters, and my brain puts up a kind of no admittance sign. I've actually always been the same about it. But back in my school days, I remember I used to enjoy biology class about as much as the frog did. And so with that kind of scientific training and background, you can imagine what an agreeable change it made for me recently when I happened across a bit of scientific news that did fill me with pleasure. And that was an item about the successes currently being achieved in the field of what's called implant surgery. Now, I know implant surgery sounds like something it might be better for Dr. O'Donnell to fill you in on, but I'm loath to wake him just for that. So let me explain that implant surgery is a technique which offers the community all sorts of benefits by shoving things under your skin. There are now various enzyme-operated devices they can implant that can, for example, stop you smoking, increase your height, make you more interesting at parties. There's even one they can implant at birth that will open your up-and-over garage doors for the rest of your life. The most exciting of all of them for me, and I think for most of my generation, is their most recent success. One dedicated scientific team has developed an implant that can actually neutralise the entire range of present-day aftershaves, body splashes, and deodorant sprays. And as regards the benefits that can bring in its wake, well, you only have to remember that over the past few decades, the human male has been so assiduously drenching himself in fragrances with names like Rampant or Stallion or Eau de Lumberjack. We've now reached a point where every one of us now has exactly the same smell as thousands of other blokes. But what has been the result of this standardisation of masculine aromas? Something really tragic. It's meant that Hollywood has been completely disqualified from making any more of those wonderful American prison movies. Why? I can hear you asking, why? Well, for those of us whose intellectual attics are crammed with titles like San Quentin, Each Dawn I Die, Riot in Cell Block 11, The Defiant Ones, The Big House, there's no doubt what the high point of those films always used to be. It was the scene that followed the one where one of the convicts escaped, busted out, they used to call it. And what would happen was that the moment after the warden said, as he always said, they can't get far in these woods, or in this storm, or over those rocks. That was the moment when they brought on the bloodhounds, which, of course, there is absolutely no longer any point in them doing. Well, think of it. I mean, as I've just explained, any number of prison inhabitants would now all smell exactly the same. You give a bloodhound that crumpled old striped jersey to sniff, and these days he'd just as likely bring you back the convict in the next cell, or one of the screws, or even a couple of members of the parole board. Which is why this latest surgical implant is such good news. It can put prison movies back on our cultural menu by simply implanting one of these new things in every prisoner the moment he enters the slammer. All deodorants will be neutralised, each con will get his own smell back, and the bloodhounds will once again be able to take up the trail. So no wonder that learned journal described the new development with such a triumphant headline: "Science gives cons scent."
Thank you, Denis. I like the notion of filling you in on implant surgery. But I see from our giant electronic scoreboard that this week's winners are Dilys and Frank. So while they're borne off to the prize winners' banquet, Antonia and Denis will have to stay behind with me and eat any words we have left. And until we all meet again, goodbye. Thank you very much, and welcome to another trip round the BBC Word Sanctuary with our two teams of distinguished word watchers, Dilys Power and Frank Muir, Antonia Fraser and Denis Norden. And we start with a round of regional variations. In different parts of Britain, these words mean the same thing or are varieties of the same thing. Frank, 4 words for you. Scribs, Croggies, Scrinch and Blobs.
Looks to me like pimples, but...
I'm giving you a visual clue. Now I'm putting one finger over the other on the same hand.
I can't do those.
Did you never do that as a boy? And shout something? Yes.
Phainites.
Yes. So, what are these Scribs, Croggies?
It means don't hit me and peace.
Yes. Yes. 2 marks to Frank.
And without help.
Imagine being in a school where they said Scrinch or Blobs,
Yes.
and you're saying packs.
Yes.
Being hit.
Yes, you're having to go through the repertory until they stop hitting you. You get the right one. They're called children's truce words, anyway, that's what they are. Antonia, Frackens, Murfles, Farn-Tickles, and Summervoys, Voys.
Oh, Blobs, Michael.
I think we'll give you a bonus for that. These actually are more noticeable usually on summer girls than on summer boys. Just Frackens, Murfles, Farn-Tickles, Sorts of things that come out in the sunshine.
Oh, freckles.
Well done, freckles, without any help. 2 marks. There's what we doctors in our technical jargon call small brown spots. Dilys, Cobble-Ducks, Cobble-Ducks, Sarsens, Sarsens, Muffeties and Whivets.
It's not the language I usually use.
They're lovely words, though.
Very nice, I know. Cobble-Ducks, I know.
If you had one of two of these loose, you might need to see a psychiatrist.
Yes.
There's an awful lot of sibilance going on in the audience.
It's a form of drink.
It's since, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's since.
No, I'll put you out of your agony.
Since.
They're different sizes of roofing slates.
Oh, well, of course. It's so obvious.
Yes,
Oh, it's rather nice. They said the audience were
I've
all
given up
rather
roofing.
rare
Yes, we
as well.
heard slates all over the audience.
No, they said screws.
Well, I don't know why you're laughing, Denis. We'll take the smile off your face with Corry-Flug, Cuddy-Whifted, Pally-Cluckit and Marlborough. The first three hyphenated, and I'll give you them again. Corry-Flug, Cuddy-Whifted,
Cuddy-Whifted.
Pally-Cluckit, and Marlborough.
You always give him the easy ones.
Great thing, there are people all over the world tuning into this programme under the belief they're learning English. What they've all got, slang, the most ribald terms in slang are for certain conditions. One is drunk. Is it? He was real Cuddy-Whifted, or you're... I came home absolutely Pally-Cluckit last night. Or pregnant. I think she's Pally-Cluckit. Is it?
No, but it could. I mean, it's an interesting idea.
Marlborough's the one that...
Yeah. It's a sinister physical characteristic.
Left-handed.
Well done. Yeah. 2 marks. I hope you notice I'm being very firm today. No real helpful clues. Now, before we go on to round 2, here Frank and Denis are the quotations you were given for the last round. Frank's is Rose of Washington Square. Certainly a song, and I think an Alice Faye film title. And Denis's is The End Justifies the Means. Meanwhile, we have one of those rounds that tend to cause trouble, not just for our teams, but for the chairman, defining the differences. Frank, can you detect any difference in meaning between allay and alleviate?
I'll tell you what, you as a medical man, may I use a medical analogy?
Yes, do, yes.
If you wanted to allay a condition, you'd prescribe a tonic. And if you wish to alleviate, you prescribe an aspirin.
2 aspirin would get you 2 marks. We'll give you 2 marks. Absolutely right. 2 marks for 2 aspirin. I mean, these are always a matter of discussion, as we know. I think it's the element of healing that comes into alleviate. And allay is to lay down, as in lay down your arms, set aside, repress, annul. Antonia, difference between assuage and appease.
Well, appease is perfectly straightforward. You bring about peace. You bring everybody into a state of peace, which on the whole, perhaps not in the 30s, but on the whole is a very good state. Assuage is much closer, really, to alleviate, isn't it?
Well, let's get into that.
Will you just give me the marks and I'll run?
No, I might say that in the shorter Oxford Dictionary, each is used to define the other. It's one of these marvellous ones. I think we'll give Antonia 2 marks and look for Dilys's definition.
Yes, I would, yeah.
Dilys, the difference between solid and stolid, apart from the fact that one's got a T in it. No marks for that.
I was going to say that.
Solid is applied to a physical condition, and stolid is a psychological reaction or form, isn't it?
Yes,
well,
yes.
I mean, you could say that a piece of earth was solid, but you wouldn't say it was stolid. And you could say it a man's reactions to danger was stolid.
And what would they have been? If he was stolid, how would he react to danger? That's all we want to know.
He would behave very calmly and collectively, like all of us.
This is after taking the aspirin. Well done. Two marks to you. Just to give you the boring definitions that you find in the dictionary, solid is free from empty spaces, stolid, dull, impassive, insensible, incapable of being excited or moved, which applies to every examiner before whom I ever appeared. Denis, difference between inescapable and ineluctable.
Ineluctable, one of those words I don't use very often, but from merely having read it, I would say inescapable means you can't escape from it by any means, but ineluctable means you can't escape by fighting against it. But presumably the door is open to negotiation or something like that. I mean, that's what I would gather. I wouldn't put more than about 40p on it. Though.
No, well, you get 2 marks for 40p. It's a good rate. Inescapable is that which cannot be avoided, is inevitable. Ineluctable, that which you cannot escape by struggling. Next round is a question of style. Noel Coward, asked to give examples of what he considered to have style, suggested, among other things, a candy-striped jeep, the colour white, a seagull, the evasion of boredom, a Brixham trawler, and the Paris Opera House, which just shows how quickly fashions can change. Yeah. Can you suggest, giving reasons for your choice, other objects, states of mind, personalities, anything which, in your opinion, possesses this ephemeral quality called style? Frank.
Do you think Noel Coward was asked to provide examples? He was paid to provide examples. It was a commercial in New York, wasn't it?
Was it? Mm. I thought he was possibly rung up late at night by a newspaper.
But I'm reminded of a friend of ours who had 2 small sons at school, junior school, they were sort of 6 and 7, and they had a friend home for the weekend, also sort of 6 or 7, and she was trying to feed them breakfast and get her husband off to work, and this is about 8:30, and the kitchen was filling with smoke from the burnt bacon and things. She was charging around and trying to get... And the small boy guest, 6 or 7, suddenly said, "Excuse me, Mrs. Hollis, but you appear to have forgotten the butter knife." that to me is style. The definition of a gentleman used to be somebody who uses a butter knife when he's alone.
Antonia,
definition.
Antonia, your definition of style.
I encountered true style quite early in life when I went from my parents' sober, not to say parsimonious, home to work as what would now be called a kind of au pair for a very jolly bohemian lady, and she gave a party. And the drink arrived, and I said, "The drink's arriving, what shall I do with it?" And she said, "Oh, put it in the bath, my dear." Well, as you could imagine, I did put it in the bath. I put the plug in, I was very careful, and I poured all the drink in the bath, because I was used to obey, and for all I knew, that's what you did with drink. And when she came in and saw it, I've never forgotten it, she said, "Well, then we'll just have to drink it as it is."
I think you both show great style there. Dilys, style.
Style, I only think of it in writing. It seems to me that style in writing is choosing the inescapable word, the word which really means precisely what you mean and can't mean anything else. I mean, when Shakespeare says to be or not to be. To be is precise. I mean, it isn't to live or to exist. It's to be. It's nothing else. And you can't use any other word which is as precisely right.
So I'll certainly buy that. People who don't do it think it's easy. Denis.
I'm using it in the sense that Noel Coward had it. And as you say, all those examples seem to have dated, I think because they apply to things. And things, very rarely have an intrinsic style. They're the attitude we bring to them. I think people who, like Antonia's, that outrageousness is what I find attractive. That one associates with Aristotle, that French aristocrats tipping the guillotine operator, you know, and things like that. But it doesn't have to be. I remember reading about an American gangster, one of these very big mobsters, who was finally caught up with after having acquired an enormous fortune and sentenced to 6 months for tax evasion, and his lawyers struggling every inch of the way. And finally, he had to go to prison for this 6 months, so he drove there in a taxi and told the driver to wait.
So we move on to a round now which Peter Moore calls definitely definitive. What word is defined as follows in the concise Oxford English Dictionary? Frank, your definition. The faculty of making happy and unexpected discoveries by accident.
It's the most beautiful word and a thing I totally believe in, invented by Horace Walpole in the late 18th century when he wrote a story about 3 princes of Serendip, which is the old word of Ceylon, who went on an expedition and on the way accidentally attracted good things to them. And it's called, the word is serendipity, and it's those marvellous things. What you get if you go to the London Library rather than the British Library, because the London Library has open shelves, and you're looking for one book, and on the way you accidentally come across 2 even more valuable to what you're looking for. Serendipity, wonderful part of life.
2 marks for Frank. Antonia, this is the definition. Wax-like substance found in intestines of sperm whale.
Well, isn't that ambergris?
That'll get you 2 marks. Well done.
Which is the... Because it's the basis of all perfume, isn't it?
Used to be used once in cooking, according to the larger Oxford Dictionary. Dilys, here's your definition. Of or designed to aid the memory.
To aid the memory?
Yes.
Nothing aids mine these days.
Well, let me give
Mnemonic.
Somebody in my rather deaf left ear said mnemonic.
Well, did he? Well, that'll. If you turn it into mnemonic, you'll get 2 marks. Well done. Denis, be careful now. This is your definition. To make love, especially in a trifling manner.
Especially in a trifling
Allowed to make...
Is it the old-fashioned meaning of make love, or the
I
newfangled?
Think the old-fashioned.
Philander.
Philander, well done. Let's turn to your quotation, Frank, which is Rose of Washington Square.
Rose of Washington Square. I take you to a fairly sort of warm Thursday in 1805 off the Cape of Trafalgar. And we are on the ship Victory, and Admiral Nelson has gone down to the chart room to meet Captain Hardy and have a cup of tea and a chart. And the Spanish and the French fleet are looming on the horizon. And they sit there talking, and Nelson says, Hardy, I want to make a signal. Get the signal flags out. And at dawn, I want to make a signal, England expects that every man will do. And Hardy said, yes. Well, the trouble is, sir, that we haven't got signal flags. So we had the signal flags, but we haven't got signal flags now. And Nelson said, well, why haven't you got signal flags, Hardy? You're the signals captain. What's the point of a signals captain without any signals? And he said, well, sir, it doesn't necessarily follow. You can be a vice captain, sir, and be a sidesman. And Nelson said, well, what happened to the signal flags? And Hardy said, well, it was the mayor of Portsmouth, sir. They're having the church fete. And he asked us if he could lend them some bunting. And I lent him the signal flags. And I said, you lent him? What are we going to do? And he said, well, we will have to borrow some from one of the other ships, which are hard astern. Hardy said, we can't, sir. It's in Queen's regulations. We've got to have signal flags, or we get 1,000 lashes each and keel hauled. It's restrictions, sir. And I said, well, this is very, very, very difficult. And Hardy was perturbed, and he said, sir, there's a little boat just back of us. I'll ask her whether she's... I'll borrow the signal flags from her. So he said, boat, may I borrow your signal flags? Now, the point is, this boat, it was the Saucy Mrs. Flobster, incidentally, which was a mercantile boat. The Saucy Mrs. Flobster was in trouble, actually. They had a lot of trouble on board already. The bows were stove in when they had a collision just off Lisbon with a jellyfish. And they'd had trouble when they left Portsmouth. For one thing, the captain has flogged the flags to the mayor of Portsmouth for his fate, the signal flags, that is. And then they had a woman on board. Now, she was actually a blanchisseuse. She was a laundry woman called Nancy. And that's what happened when the ship made shore, like Portsmouth. The laundry woman would come on and she'd do the captain's curtains and his bed clothes. And when they left Portsmouth, they discovered that she'd also done a bunk. So the captain made... The captain they called, they're a very friendly crew, they called Skip, because he was full of rubbish. And Skip made Nancy his first mate. He was terribly shy. And the skipper and Nancy were on the bridge when this shout came, avast behind! They were in the middle of the British fleet. They said, we want your flags. And Nancy said, we haven't got any flags, Skip. No, we sold them to the mayor of Portsmouth. He said, I know. She said, I know I do. I'll tear up the washing. So he said, hang on a moment, sir, Admiral, sir. We're just coming without signal flags. And she got all the crew to take their shirts off, and she went down to all the washing in the tub, and she tore the sleeves off and just left the geometrical patterns, and spent the whole evening dabbing them into the colours of the various signal flags. And in the morning, when the signal was hoisted on HMS Victory, it was there again, line upon line of apparently signal flags saying England expects that every man will do his duty. They were not signal flags. What were they? Rows of washing torn square.
Evoked a very satisfactory groan, I thought, that one. Denis, the end justifies the means, not in Latin. That's the translation.
The end it's a line that more or less sums up the quandary that Frank and I find ourselves placed in every week with these stories. What's it better to do? To rack our brains in search of a really tortured final line, like the one that elicited groans there, or go for a simple twist at the end and concentrate on making the tale that leads up to it as interesting as possible? Because what happens sometimes, you see, is that you place all your hopes on the final line, only to find that getting to it proves so lengthy and tedious that you start suffering what could be described as the loneliness of the long-distance punner. A case in point could be a story that I was embroidering recently about what happened when my wife and I went to one of those enormous bedding warehouses in search of something suitable for stuffing a duvet. Now, what they recommended was something called goose down. A bit expensive, but they stressed that it was important not to use too much because an overstuffed duvet apparently raises the temperature of the bed to a point where unusual things can start happening. And to help their customers take the right amount of down, there were 3 sets of scales for you to weigh the stuff on. Well, while we were waiting for a set of scales to become vacant, who should I spot but one of our oldest friends, a girl called Eva. Can't remember her second name, Eva. So just as I was going over to her to have a chat with her, 2 of the scales became available. One of them right next to where Eva was standing, which meant, and here it comes, I was able to turn to my wife and say, "Weigh down upon this one near Eva." Now, didn't that weigh... It's better if you sing it, actually. That's the point, that way down... Washington Square. But didn't that seem an interminable length of time before I got to that extremely feeble last line? Have you ever in your life heard anything as teeth-achingly boring as the story I had to plough through to accommodate it, you see? But that, as I say, is our weekly dilemma. Just how dull can a story be before its very tedium destroys the line it's leading to? I mean, there'd be no difficulty if the preamble to it could be reasonably brief, as with a tale that's been knocking around my mind for quite a while now about a lady with the job of selling timeshares in holiday properties on a group of islands in the West Indian Ocean, and how she decides to set up her shop near a children's playground. Her purpose, of course, being to use as her slogan, "She sells Seychelles near the seesaw." or another idea I had to discard as being too short concerned an amateur operatic society who cancelled their Christmas production of Amal and the Night Visitors in order to allow the hall to be booked for a one-man show by the well-known My Music panellist, John Amos, on the theory, as you probably guessed, that Amos is as good as Amal. Now, at that length, you see, it's a doddle. But because these stories have to run at least 4.5 minutes, what one gets forced into are such interminable anecdotes as one of the latest I've hatched up is about a suburban housewife who has had a Scandinavian lover called Leif Erikson. And this Leif Erikson got into the habit of staying the night whenever her husband was away on business. One such occasion, however, happened to coincide with that national census they take every few years, when you get a form on which you must state the name of every person present in your dwelling place between dusk and dawn. Which is why the following morning a friend of hers, knowing that she was one of those women who are more punctilious about their civic responsibilities than their marital ones, rang her up and said, in some agitation, "Have you taken leaf off your census?" Now, admit, weren't there times during that when you were muttering to yourself, "Where's all this leading to? I hope it's going to prove worthwhile." Well, if there's one thing that Frank and I have learned over the years, it's that providing the final twist is really satisfying, then one can ignore all the audience's whinging en route to it. Or as they used to say back in the days when they said it in Latin, the end jest defers the moans.
Well,
hang on a minute for Frank to work it out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Up there. And while he was working it out, the BBC's gas-fired computer crunched the numbers and revealed that our winners are Antonia and Denis. So they each get 2 tins of my word alphabet soup, while Dilys and Frank have to make do with some wordless minestrone. Until we all meet again, goodbye. Thank you very much, and welcome to another round of this game in which I scour my bookshelves for unlikely questions and our teams scour their memories for even more unlikely answers. And our teams today are, as ever, Dilys Powell and Frank Muir, Antonia, Fraser and Denis Norden. Now, once upon a time, when the world was young, I used to listen to a program on the wireless called Songs from the Shows, and here's a round about verses that were written to be performed as songs within plays. 1 point each for the name of the play and the author, and a bonus if you can complete the stanza. Frank, here's to the maiden of bashful 15.
Here's to the matron of 40. Here's to the something like flagrant, extravagant queen. And here's to the housewife who's thrifty. Let the toast pass. Here's to the lass I warrant shall prove an excuse for the glass.
That's the bonus point for the stanza. Now we just want the author and the play.
It was towards the end of The School for Scandal, by Richard Brinsley Sheridan.
So you've got we'll give you all the marks. In fact, as the housewives was thrifty, the widow was in fact not
nifty.
It was nifty, that'll do. 3 marks to Frank. Antonia, your song is part not of a play, but of a novel. And it starts, when lovely woman stoops to folly.
And finds too late that men betray, what charm can soothe her melancholy, what art can wash her guilt away.
That's you've started with your bonus point. The author.
Goldsmith.
And?
Well, I think it's one of those vicars. It's the vicar of Wakefield, not the one who changed sides all the time.
It's the vicar of Wakefield. He was actually born, did you know, in the county of Longford.
Of course I knew.
Yeah,
I knew everything about the county of Longford.
Dilys, yours is undoubtedly a play. It was a lover and his lass with a hey and a ho and a hey nonny no.
Well, that's Shakespeare.
Yes, that's
one. It must be Shakespeare in one of his jolly moods. And it must be one of the comedies, I should think. I mean, it wouldn't be Romeo and Juliet.
It's a bit more rural than that.
As you like it.
Yes, that will do. As you like it, we'll get you a second mark. Can you give us anything after the hey nonny no for your bonus?
Oh, the green cornfields pass in springtime,
I think it went on to sort of jollity about... I haven't the faintest idea how it went on.
No, but your friend with the funny voice actually busked in very nicely behind you. So we'll give your side the full 3 marks.
It just is hey nonny no.
That's good. Hey nonny no will do it. And a hey nonny 3 to Dilys. Denis, for which play did who write a song called Has Anybody Seen Our Ship?
The HMS Suggestive. She sailed away across the bay, and we haven't had a smell of her since New Year's Day. Heave ho, my heart is... We're suggestive. The crew are getting restive. We pulled our money and we spent the lot. The world forgetting, but the world forgot, and we haven't got a penny for the you-know-what. Has anybody seen our ship?
That's the bonus mark.
Yeah. And it was for the Red Peppers, written by Noel Coward.
Yes. And the Red Peppers was part of...
It was part of 3 plays. Well, he actually wrote 9, didn't he? He wrote Tonight at 8:30, which was 9 plays, which he kept fumed oak and all that lot, and he kept changing them round and making them into little groups.
Yeah, well, that Tonight at 8:30 will do. Full marks to Denis. I think the first time round, I think it's the HMS Peculiar, isn't it? Which rhymes at Hallelujah. I always remember that. However, before we go on to our next round, here are Frank and Denis are the quotations you were given for the last round. Well, Frank's is not a quotation. It's the name of a volcano in Mexico. Popocatépetl. Popocatépetl for you, Frank. And yours, Denis, the phrase is, "It'll be all right on the night," which is an American theatrical expression. Now we have a tale of 4 cities. Frank, here's a conversation created by Charles Dickens. "And how, my dearest Dombey, did you find that delightfulest of cities?" "It was cold," returned Mr. Dombey. "Gay as ever?" asked Mrs. Skewton. "Not particularly. I thought it dull," said Mr. Dombey. "Fie, my dearest Dombey, dull." "It made that impression upon me, madam. I believe Mrs. Dombey found it dull too." Which city had Mr. and Mrs. Dombey been visiting?
That's a good one. Which Mr. and Mrs. Dombey was it? Was it the young or the old? It couldn't have been the old, could it? Must have been the young.
It's the city that Hilaire Belloc said that veneer is the thinnest in the world for a certain sort of city.
It's Paris, then.
Paris, it could be.
It's hard. I didn't know he went to Paris.
Antonia, in James Hilton's Lost Horizon, when the High Lama suggests to his visitor that Shangri-La must be unique in his experience and asks if the Western world could offer anything in the least like it, his visitor answers with a smile, "Well, yes, to be quite frank, it reminds me very slightly of..." Where?
Shangri-La, was he thinking of playing sort of green fields or...
He was behaving like a person who had spent some years of his life in a certain city.
Yes, clearly. What would it...
Shangri-La doesn't...
No, it
doesn't live up to it.
It wasn't making a joke.
It's a sort of joke, and it's a sort of joke that would be made by somebody who'd spent 3 years in the city which he actually mentioned.
Oxford.
Oxford it is. Well done.
Yes.
Full marks for Antonia. Dilys. Percy B. Shelley wrote, "Let there be light, said liberty, and like sunrise from the sea, what city arose?"
Who said it?
Mr. Shelley.
Shelley.
Percy.
Shelley. It wouldn't have been Venice. Well, I should think in that case, because of the date, it would be Athens, wouldn't it?
It would be Athens, and that would be 2 marks for you. Well done.
I've never heard it before. I didn't really say it.
No, it was Byron who was always banging on.
It's rather pompous of him.
Denis, a few words from Dorothy Wordsworth's journal. The old town with its irregular houses, stage above stage, seen as he saw it in the obscurity of a rainy day, hardly resembles the work of men. It is more like a piling up of rocks. 2 marks for naming the city.
Well, where did... Was she with her brother at the time?
They weren't, but they weren't where you...
Touring. They weren't Germany. They went round... Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Antonia's got a good idea. That's right. That fulfills... Because the houses are on top of one another, and it is like piling up a rock. Edinburgh.
Well done. 2 marks to both of you. It was... it had the clue of the old town in it as well. Now, this is where we take our lives in our hands... or you take your lives in your hands. It's pencil and paper time, because we're going to revive a popular pastime of the 18th century. We're going to boot rhyme. We're going to write verse to fit rhymes supplied by others, and I'm going to play others in this case. So I'm going to give you all 2 pairs of rhyming words, And we want you to write a stanza using the words as end rhymes. A couple of couplets will do. Frank, your words are play, day, neat, and feet. Antonia, yours are man, can, song, and wrong. Dilys, cow, now, head, and dead. Denis, night, flight, pose, and nose. Now, you've got the end rhymes. What we want is a 4-line stanza. Now, you're okay, are you?
Yes.
Antonia? Okay, are we all ready to go? Are you set, Dilys? Right, we're now switching. See, all this bit won't go out at all. We're now switching the programme back on again. Frank.
Play day, neat feet.
Yes?
Boys and girls come out to play. Today is fairies' dancing day. Titania's forms so slim and neat. What a shame about the feet.
Antonia.
Man, can, song, wrong.
Yes.
And I'm going to repeat the last rhyme. When in the bath, the average man is under the impression that he can sing any song without getting the tune wrong. But he's wrong.
Dilys. Cow, now, head, and dead.
I had a pet. It was a cow. I only wish I had her now. Unfortunately, she fell on her head. And how I miss her now she's dead.
And Denis, night, flight, pose, and nose.
Well, my first two had already been done for me. Awake for morning in the bowl of night has flung the stone that puts the stars to flight. So at my bathroom mirror must I pose to brush my teeth and comb my hair and blow my nose.
All these will be published in a Methuen edition of modern poetry.
I can see why it was all the rage in the 18th century. I think maybe we'll revive it now. Yeah. Anyway, that's 100 marks each. 100 marks each, I think, and well earned, all of you. Well done. Now, after that taxing episode, let's return to more familiar territory. A quick round of double definitions. 1 word, 2 meanings. I'll give you a definition of each meaning and 2 points if you get the word. Frank, you can play it or crawl in it. Crawl is slightly deceptive. It's not...
Don't obfuscate the issue, even though it's obfuscated.
I mean, Mike... Yes,
the answer is crib. You play in the game of crib, it's a card game, and you crawl in a crib, which is an enclosed space for a baby.
Right,
I'll have another 100 marks. And
you can have your marks for that, and if you get what I've got down, you get a bonus mark.
Well, I don't know what you've got down.
No, well, that's right. Well, we'll just give you your marks, and I'll tell you what I had here, which was...
Go on, briefly.
Dip in it as well, pool. Anyway, Antonia... Double definition, 1 word, 2 meanings. First meaning archaeological hunting grounds, and the second meaning lodgings.
The answer is digs, for which I want the usual 100 marks.
Yes.
But I would like to make a plea. Do you know that every motorway that's made is rubbishing up important archaeological sites? So how's about that?
Well, maybe they'll become archaeological sites. Anyway, let's give you your marks before we get into...
I suppose, Captain, sir, I suppose you could argue in a sense that they're the same word, because digs comes from diggings, the Australian gold diggings, and diggings and diggings. It's more or less the same word.
Yes. Dilys. Your 2 meanings, athletic competition or common stock. 1 word.
Athletic competition or common stock. Race.
That'll do.
Race.
Let's give Dilys her mark. Denis, an algebraic symbol or a dead tree?
Oh, God, I was never any good at algebraic symbols.
Well, you're very good at dead trees.
12 years trying to find X, and it was... Still hadn't come across it when I left school.
We had a joke about that. The French found it.
Yes, let's do it. X actually turned out to be 10 and was commemorated by a French philosophical movement called the existentialists.
But that would get you a mark.
Dead tree is... Could it be twig and twigonometry?
That's a good try.
What do you...
Trunk.
How are you on
Trunk.
Trunk.
Not
Trunk.
quite.
A trunk is a... Isn't that...
It's a sort of a bit of a trunk you might throw on a fire. Throw
A log.
A log. Log will do. We'll give you the marks.
Short for logarithm, yes?
Full marks to all of you. Frank is still puzzled. So we now come to Frank's quotation. This Mexican volcano Popocatépetl.
In reply to all those listeners who are so anxious to know the present state of play with our domestic animals, I've been thinking about the cats, and I think they're overpraised on the whole. They lie around all day on the best chairs or tear them to pieces. They eat every 18 minutes out of terribly expensive tins of brown cat food, and comes out at about 8p a lump. I mean, and they don't really do much in exchange. And there's a lot of rubbish talked about, emotional rubbish talked about cats. There's a French poet called Mary in the early part of the last century who said that a cat is God's way of allowing a human being to caress a tiger. Now, his forename gives him away. It was four-barreled forename. It was Francois Joseph Pierre Agnes Mary. So this man's Christian name was 3 men and a woman. So what do he know about cats? Have you ever tried to caress a tiger? I haven't personally, because my arm is about 30 foot too short for safety. But I have caressed a cheetah in the London Zoo, which is an animal of much the same make. And caressing a cheetah is not fun. It's like rubbing your fingers along one of those wire brushes used for scraping boilers. It draws blood. Quite a lot to do with cats draw blood, actually. They draw blood quite consistently. I have two, you see. There's the Kettering, the Burmese, and Chinto, the Abyssinian. And the Abyssinian is affectionate. And he shows his affection by a running jump from about 30 feet away onto the back of my neck when I'm not looking. And he's not a small cat. He goes bulky. He's got a small face, but he gets bulkier behind, like a 747. You know, he's got a delicate cockpit, and yet he's drawing this huge... Well, it's like Chinto, he's like that. And he lands with a tremendous thud when I'm typing on the back of my neck. And to stop himself sliding down, he hooks on. Now, I can't hook him off, you see. The only thing you've got to push him upwards to unhook him. So I go down to the gate, and then I hook him, sort of rest my back against the gate, so that he's on the sort of ledge of the top bar. And then I gently bow my knees and try and do this until he comes off. It's a bit puzzling to passers-by. I look like a sort of very old-fashioned policeman. Morning, sir. Bending at the knee rhythmically. And they're not all that clever cats. They're supposed to be mighty hunters. And they don't know where their food is until you've lovingly rammed their nose into their saucer. And ours stake out... If you've got a cold chicken, they stake out the refrigerator in the hope that the chicken will sort of rush out and commit suicide. For hours they'll sit there wishing for the thing to come out. And then it's Kettering, the Burmese, who's the Peter man. After about 3 hours of waiting and the door hasn't dissolved, and nor has the thing committed suicide and fallen out, Kettering goes forward and makes a little caressing movements with his paw. And the door can usually be opened anyway because it isn't firmly shut due to a litre of £1.04 Gibraltar Chianti, which is sort of slightly blocking it. They get it open, there's the cold chicken. They then reach up and knock it off, and it falls with a crash beside them, and they don't know what to do with it. It's too big for them, or something, and they look at it, and it's the wrong colour. It's not like their nice little dark brown 8p lumps of horse. So they sort of blink slowly a couple of times and stroll away. You know, that's not hunting. But one thing I did notice about them is that they don't like nice smells. That's probably why they don't eat the chicken. They don't like nasty smells or no smells at all. You can't give a cat a decent saucer of sherry. They will not have it. Or a clove of garlic, or a banana. They just intensely dislike nice smells. And this comes in very handy, and this is my bit of advice for today. If you've got a cold in the head, and you go to the garden centre to buy smelly roses, there's no way of knowing whether the cabbage rose is one of those with a marvellous smell or not. But if you think that your cat's at home, you see, they will play with a blossom happily if it's got no smell, and will reject it immediately if it's an old-fashioned smelly rose. So there's your answer. If you're not sure whether the roses are smelly or not, get hold of a blossom, take it home, and pop a cat a petal.
And remember, cat lovers, you first heard it on this programme. Denis, your phrase, it'll be all right on the night.
Well, what's been happening with me since we last met? Well, nothing that could honestly be described as enthralling. I rearranged my sock drawer. We found out our Avon lady was a transvestite. I suppose the most dramatic change in my life has been that I bought a new car. The old one really was beginning to look a bit disreputable. The front number plate was askew. The model name had fallen off the bonnet. The rear view mirror had gone limp. And every time you put your foot hard down on the accelerator, the dashboard clock gained 3 minutes. So all in all, the car wasn't so much depreciating as decomposing. So I traded it in for something I've never had before, a Japanese car, a Honda, to be precise. And because it had so many features that were quite different from my previous car, the first time that I got in it, the salesman was kind enough to climb in beside me and give me a kind of guided tour of all its various knobs and switches. And I had no difficulty at all coming to grips and getting the hang of any of them until he came to a button down on my left somewhere, and he said, "This controls your headlamp washer and wiper unit." And I said, "My what?" And he said, "The headlamp washer and wiper. If you're driving along and you think your headlamps could do with a wash and wipe, will you just give that a quick press?" I said, "Do you know, in all the umpteen years I've been driving, such a thought has never once even occurred to me. What's more," I said, "among the infinite number of things that other motorists have shouted at me during that time, not one of them has ever yelled, 'Why don't you give your filthy headlamps a wash and a wipe?'" Well, he was very smooth, that salesman, somewhere between Donald Sinden and a papal nuncio, because all he said in reply was, "Well, sir, if Honda hadn't had evidence of a mass consumer demand for a headlamp washer and wiper unit, they wouldn't have made it an additional feature of this car." And you know, it was that statement which put the idea into my mind. If all you have to do to get car manufacturers to install some completely new feature on a car is to show them evidence of mass consumer demand, why couldn't listeners to this programme join me in demonstrating a demand for a couple of really necessary new car features. For instance, and this is something I'm sure all fellow drivers would appreciate, why can't they feature something for when you're at the traffic lights and the moment the lights turn green, the bloke behind you starts hooting his horn? Now, what I have in mind is some kind of sound-activated switch so that the first blast from this chap, a mechanical arm will pop out of your boot and squirt hot yoghurt all over his windscreen. Now, another feature that I'm sure every fellow motorist would welcome is some kind of locating device for when you park your car in one of those enormous multi-storey car parks, and when you come back 3 hours later, you've got absolutely no memory of where you left it. Now, my suggestion would be a sort of remote control gadget that you carry in your pocket. So on your return to the car park, you simply press something on it, and it makes all your car lights flash on and off at you, while the hooter plays a sequence of prearranged long and short blasts, preferably in some kind of familiar tune. Mind you, I do appreciate it would make things a bit noisy if all the other motorists had one as well. But I'm just giving an indication of what is really needed. I mean, car manufacturers can't expect me to do all their work for them. But if you agree that either of those would prove a bigger boon than a headlamp, washer and wiper unit, then, according to that knowledgeable salesman, all we have to do is to organise our mass consumer demand. And all that requires is that all of us resolve that every evening in this coming week, we all simultaneously send letters to one or other of the various car manufacturers asking for these two things. In other words, I suggest we write en masse to Ford Monday night, Fiat Tuesday night, Volvo Wednesday night, then so as to save my car till last, we all of us send off a letter to Peugeot Thursday night, and that way, you see, come Friday, it'll be all right Honda night.
While Denis was giving us his motoring notes, we fed all your answers into the My Word gas-fired computer, and they reveal that today we have a draw on our hands. It's a tie. So well done, everybody. So they all have to share our major prize today, which is a trip to the exotic Paris studio in London to take part in our next programme. And until we all meet again, goodbye.
We present My Word.
A panel game devised by Tony Shrine and Edward J. Mason. And here to introduce the teams is Michael O'Donnell.
Thank you very much. Now stand by for another burst of philological erudition from our hand-picked eruditionists, Dilys Powell, Frank Muir versus Antonia, Fraser and Denis Norden. And we start off with a little night poetry, poetic thoughts to do with night. One mark for the name of the poet, another for the name of the poem, or a few more lines from it. Frank. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring.
Not even a mouse. It's American. It's middle of the last century. It was written by a professor of Greek at a New York seminary. whose name was Cholton Clark Collins, or Moore. Churston.
Yeah. Clement C. Moore.
Yeah.
Well, 2 marks for Frank. Antonia, I work all day and get half drunk at night. Waking at 4 to soundless dark I stare.
In time, the curtain edges will grow light. Till then, I see what's really always there. Unresting death, a whole day nearer now, making all thought impossible, but how and when and where I shall myself die. Arid interrogation, yet the dread of dying and being dead flashes afresh to hold and horrify.
We don't want it all. And the author?
The author's Philip Larkin, and the poem is Obard, and it's not yet been in his collected works or actually printed other than in sort of magazines, yet everyone who reads it, I hesitate to say everyone who hears it, because listeners may not appreciate my diction, but it leaves a terrible impression. And my husband read it to me out of this paper on Christmas Eve. I was lying in my bath, minding my own business, thinking about Santa Claus, when suddenly he came and read this terrible poem.
Dilys. This isn't Philip Larkin. Though the night was made for loving and the day returns too soon.
Oh, that must be Byron. It sounds like Byron. It is Byron. And it's called, well, it says, so no more we'll go roving.
That'll do.
I guess I'll say no more we'll go roving. To the light of the moon.
The light of the silvery moon. Not quite, but leave out the silvery. 2 marks to those, because the poem is actually called So We'll Go No More A-Roving. Denis. The shades of night were falling fast.
As through a mountain village passed a
All of
youth,
it, Denis, all of
it. A youth, this is the other end of the spectrum from Philip Larkin. This is the optimist. Youth who bore amid snow and ice a banner with a strange device, Excelsior. I remember about that by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who sort of more or less single-handedly holds up the Oxford Dictionary quotation. I first came across that when I was a grubby schoolboy, and the line that created enormous speculation in that was, all sorts of people tried to stop him from toiling up the mountain. And one of them was this maiden who said to him, "Rest your weary head upon this breast," which was aroused. Simply the word was enough, but we tremendous speculation. What did she mean by this breast? Did she mean this because the other one's occupied? Or that one alone was sufficient to support a head,
Ben Travers also wrote a short story, didn't he? Proving that it was in fact a publicity stunt, the whole thing, for the Excelsior Banana Company. In fact, he bore a banana with a strange device, Excelsior.
Now, before we go on to round 2, here are the phrases Frank and Denis have chosen for the final round. And Frank's is "an ill-favoured thing, sir, but mine own," which is Touchstone speaking in As You Like It. And Denis's is "I think, therefore I am," which he describes as an exquisitely philosophical statement uttered in Latin by French mathematician René Descartes. Now, meanwhile, one of our traditional rounds, Origins and Derivations, where points are won, not just with knowledge, but with skillful negotiation sometimes. Frank, whence comes the phrase, "between the devil and the deep blue sea"?
It comes from Terence Rattigan. It's actually, like many of these things, nautical, I believe.
It is nautical.
A bit boring, actually.
A bit boring, but...
A bit boring, because it means to... It's like the devil to pay, but no hot pitch. Paying means to stuff pitch back into the cracks in the decks between the planks. And the devil was one such plank, although it's supposed to be the strake which is above the keel, or the strake which is not a streak at all, but the nearest little split in the planking to the gunwales.
I didn't understand any of that.
No, I was silent because I was bewitched by the...
That was called the devil because for some reason, which hasn't been explained, both of them were dangerous to shove hot pitch in with your thumb. Because you might fall into the water, you see. So you were between the devil and the deep sea. And it's one of those boring explanations. It probably isn't right at all, but it's in fact biblical.
No. It's right enough.
It also could be biblical. It could be the swine who were being pushed over the cliffs into the sea by the devils. You see? Or it could be... Haven't you had enough of this?
No, but I think we'll give you a couple of marks and move on. Antonia, what is the origin of the word taxi?
Taxi, I'm glad you asked me. It's one of my favourite words, taxi. Well, I dare say that it's to do with the fact that stuffing animals, as you know, is the art of taxidermy.
It's not that. That's a blind alley, as the taxidermist would say.
Well, you see, Michael, that in the Far East, is this any good?
No, I would stick with the cab, and it was called a taximeter cab.
That is absolutely true. It was...
That was so transparent, honestly. Sucking up to him so obviously.
Well, that's the answer. It was. That's the origin of the word taxi, that it was called a taximeter cab.
That's right. It's a diminutive. If it gets more diminutive, it's called a minicab.
I said this round was a matter of negotiation. I think you've negotiated a couple of marks, and I'll just tell you, rather boringly, that the taximeter was the device which automatically measured the tax or charge to the customer. We borrowed the word taximeter from the Germans who had formed it out of Greek elements. Dilys, can I ask you, where do we get the phrase on the nail, as in paying on the nail?
I'm sure there are a great many answers to this, and I have a very inaccurate one, I'm sure. There's a place, a rather large place on the Avon. I can't remember the name of it.
It's called Bristol.
Place. And if you go there, you're always told that in one of the main streets in the old part of the town, it's a city really, there are sort of posts in the road. And you're told, if you read the guidebooks, you're told that business was conducted by people clapping their money on the top of the post. And I have no further information to offer.
Now, there's what I call a nice, clear, unequivocal definition, and you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. 2 marks to do. It was once upon a medieval time, a nail was a shallow vessel mounted on a stand, and people concluded their business by putting their payment in it. And a few specimen nails can still be found outside the Corn Exchange in Bristol. So there we are. Denis. Oh dear, here's trouble coming. The phrase son of a gun.
What it's like born in a trunk is when mothers used to go, or wives used to go on ships, if their son was born on deck, it was like he was born in a trunk. He grew up in the Navy. He was born in the Navy, and therefore it was an expression of approval, which is how it's used.
I think we'll give you 2 marks for brevity.
Yes, brevity.
Just slightly corrected. But no, it's near enough. 2 marks to Denis. And it was until this century, women were allowed on board naval ships, and the voyages were so long that not only did they often become pregnant, but they had to give birth at sea, and the births took place behind a canvas screen near the midship gun. And if, as often happened, there was some doubt about the paternity, the baby was entered in the ship's record as a son of a gun.
In the First World War, Big Bertha.
So those who boast of being a bit of a son of a gun may not know what they're boasting about. Now, if that round wasn't trouble enough, we now move on to an even more troublesome round, because I'm going to try and revive another parlour game involving words, stepping stones, in which you have to move from one word to another via other words and phrases that link them together. For example, if you want to get from iron to cricket, you could progress iron, iron side, sidearm, arm and leg, leg before wicket, cricket.
Oh.
Frank, the enthusiasm is bursting out of you.
Do you have to take an item of clothing off?
Frank, let's say you get from dog to sex.
With our dogs, it's a fairly swift journey. I mean, I don't see a problem. I think it's a wonderful game. I think it's a smashing idea. Why don't we just move on to the next round?
Would you like a clue or two to help you on the route?
Dog.
There are
Dog collar and tie. What's the clue?
With the help of good timekeeping and some armour.
Good timekeeping. Dog watch. Yes. Naval expression.
Yes.
Where do I get to? Sex.
Good timekeeping and some armour will get you to sex.
Dog watch. Watch chain. Thank you, madam. chain armour. Chain mail.
Yes.
Chain mail. Male and female. Whoops.
Relatively painless, really. Antonia, yours is a modern poet's progress from Roy Fuller to Harold Pinter.
Roy Fuller. Well, I can go my own route, can't I?
You can take your own route, yes.
Right. Roy Fuller, Fuller Grace, Grace Darling, Darling Child, Child Harold, Harold Pinter.
That'll do. That'll do. Dilys, Henry Carey is an author whose name crops up occasionally on this programme. Let's see you get from his first name, Henry, to Carey.
Does it have to be names? Can you go words too?
It can be words. You can do it in names of authors. I'll give you a clue. From Henry to Carey.
I can't give you names of authors. Henry ate.
Think of an American author.
In wives. He didn't have 8 wives. He had 6. His last wife was not what you would call a chicken. She was not a chicken.
Mary.
And she could not, therefore, be numbered among the birds known as Mother Carey's chicken.
Denis, your mission, if you're prepared to accept it, is to progress from Billingsgate to East Lynn.
East. Could you smother me with clues?
Well, you'd get some help from some economic levers.
Economic levers, yeah.
And a golden wartime memory. Billingsgate Market.
Market Risborough.
I was going to say Market Harbouring. It's thrown my train of thoughts completely derailed now, yes. Market, economic, is that your economic levers there? Or is
it could be, yes.
Market forces. Golden
wartime memory.
Forces, that's a golden. Forces sweetheart.
Yes.
Was Vera Lynn. Now, we're not 1,000 miles away from East Lynn.
Now, that'll do.
And East Lynn is a part of Vera Lynn.
That's right. Now, let's have a quick round of literary animals. Frank, what literary figure used to go out and buy oysters for his cat?
Samuel Johnson.
Samuel Johnson.
Cat Hodge.
Cat's name's Hodge. 2 marks. Antonia, what was the name of the Cocker Spaniel who twice bit the poet who came to woo its owner?
Flush.
Flush will do.
And Elizabeth Barrett. Then Elizabeth Barrett owned it.
2 marks.
The future Elizabeth Barrett Browning.
And it was put on a chain then.
Yeah.
It hasn't sunk in. Dilys, what was the name of the young mongoose who in Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book saved the English family he lived with from 2 cobras?
I haven't the faintest idea, but from the depths of memory, this is Kipling, is it?
Yes, it is Kipling.
A name comes up which I'm sure may be not applied to a mongoose, which is Rikki Tikki Tavi.
Denis, there once was a piebald gelding, part cart horse, part Arab, with 1 wall eye and a habit of running wild in the village. In what book did his owner, Miss Brown, win him in a raffle?
I don't remember any book. Miss Brown.
It's a sort of book he reads the whole time,
Yeah.
but secretly.
It's not Nat Gould. This is not one of the, no. All that glitters is Nat Gould, no? What?
This is... it's
Jackanapes, no.
a horse.
Is it sort of pony book that I would have read as a young girl? Sort of, you know, is that...
You might have read it as a young... You might well have read it as a young girl.
It's not Black Beauty.
No, it's the other one.
Skewbald.
No, it's not Black Beauty. It's the other book.
Is
about...
National...
Oh, is it
Income
National
Tax.
Velvet? Well,
National Velvet,
yes.
well done.
By Enid Bagnold, starring Elizabeth Taylor before she married anybody.
Except the horse.
Yes.
Frank, your phrase. We've come to...
But you always give me warning.
Well, we now come to Frank's phrase.
What was it?
And Frank's phrase is, an ill-favoured thing, sir, but mine own.
I said it, I piped it out in my schoolboy voice. At the age of 13, I'm going back a bit. It was this competition. I had a wooden leg at the time. But I'll come to that. Or I might not. It depends on my mood as the story progresses. It was this wild idea of the headmaster. It was Leighton County High School at Essex Road, Leighton, and we were in fierce competition with the Essex County High School for Girls, which was at Leighton Stone. And there was a whole thing about cooking, and there was a thing on the wireless. We didn't have television in those days. The wireless saying that men couldn't cook. It took them too long, and they were fussy in the kitchen. And a challenge, a rivalry existed between 2 schools, and a challenge was issued from the girls' school to the boys' school that to make a trifle, actually, and it was to be done by 1 boy and 1 girl, and it was to be done in an hour and a half. We would start at 10:30, and we were to give them. We mustn't get any help. We must produce the trifle at 12. At midday exactly, and points would be lost if we took too long. And I was elected to be for the boys. It was out of a hat, and I was elected. And in fact, it wasn't until I got home that I realised I only had something like 5 minutes to make my trifle before proceeding home again. So I had to do it all very quickly from made ingredients. And my mummy wasn't there to help, and I didn't know how you made it, but I remembered trifle. And I remembered you always had sponge fingers. So straight into the garage, found the sponge we used for the car, cut it into fingers. And you had to cover this with custard. I couldn't find... custard apparently is a powder. I always remembered it was a liquid. But there's this tin which said, apparently it was for feeding the birds, but I opened this tin which said bird's custard, and there wasn't any left, but it was powder. So I went up and found a big tin of talcum powder and pushed that over my sponge fingers, but it wasn't yellow, so I mixed in some mustard, which sort of went yellowish. And then, looking around for what next to put in, I remembered you had to have red jam. We only had gooseberry jam, because of the garden, But I found some red lead paint, and that was quite good. It really looked very like raspberry jam. And I tasted it, and it didn't taste bad. It tasted like dead daffodils. Have you ever tasted a dead daffodil? It's had a remote, melancholy taste. Now, we were each given 2 shillings to buy the ingredients. I hadn't spent a penny of mine. So I went to the Leighton Market, and there was a stall there. None of them sold jelly. And I hadn't time anyway, but there's a stall there with jellied eels. So you could buy an awful lot of jellied eels for 2 shillings in those days. So I picked out the eels and gave them to a dog that became very friendly and stayed by me, actually. He stayed by me for 11 years. He died of old age. He was a great chum, actually. And he ate all the eels, and I mashed up the jelly and poured that over the mixture in my bowl and had my try. Oh, it stank. Oh, terrible smell of sea, and like the bottom of the pier at Southend, a sort of rancid sea smell. And I rushed it back. And just as I gave it to the headmaster and said, "Sir, here is my trifle," he took the lid off and reeled back. And as he reeled back, the school clock struck 12, the hour of midday, and he reeled back and said, "By God, what is this?" And I said, in my piping voice, I piped up, "An eel-flavoured thing, sir, but by noon."
One slipped through the back door at the last minute. Denis's is "I think, therefore I am."
Well, because something akin to that were the very last words he ever uttered, I'd like this tale to pay tribute to an actor I used to know named J. Pennethorne Thrupp. Oh, it's just an ordinary name, I grant you, but I can hand on heart assert that when it came to the art and craft of acting, that man was, if I may be permitted just a touch of hyperbole, diabolical. The trouble with his acting, you see, in fact, the whole point of it was it was more than just old-fashioned. His style of diction and gesture contained more ham than anything this side of Smithfield. But show business is a fickle jade, because the director of one of our best-known civic theatres was browsing through the photographs of minor actors in Spotlight when he suddenly noticed something that nobody had ever spotted before. J. Pennethorne Thrupp bore an uncanny resemblance to the only existing portrait of the 3rd Duke of Clarence. This director just happened to be in the process of casting a new historical musical entitled Malmsey, which was, as everybody knows, a sweet white wine which the 3rd Duke of Clarence was unlucky enough to drown in a butt of. And it's not often you can end a sentence with "but of." But back to the producer. This show, he told the rather dazed J. Pennethorne when he got him there for the first rehearsal, this show is going to be spot on as regards historical accuracy, he told him, except of course for the laser effects and the songs and the nudity. But what I'm insisting on is your drowning in a butt of Malmsey scene has got to have the authentic dignity about it. Can do, lovey? And J. Pennethorne, who for all his limitations could recognise a last chance when he saw it, nodded emphatically. Well, they rehearsed that scene in the 8-foot barrel of Malmsey over and over. But the more they tried it, the more unsatisfied the director became. No. He said, you're hamming it up again. I don't want all that over-the-top spluttering and waving your arms about as you go on. Do remember that this man was the 3rd Duke, to say nothing of the fact that we're being sponsored by Harvey's of Bristol. Play on the nail. So do Do try and put some dignity into it. Now, perhaps that might have been the moment for J. Pennethorne to have told him that he couldn't swim. But this was, you have to remember, the first real break he'd ever had. So, laddie, he said, just let me try it once more, which he did. And the director got even more enraged. Look at you, he screamed out. Look at all that choking and spitting. Is that what you consider aristocratic repose? Why can't you float in a simple butt of wine without exaggerating everything? At which J. Pennethorne uttered the short sentence which lent the only touch of dignity to his whole ignoble career, as the sweet white wine closed over his head for the third and last time. He said quite simply, I sink, therefore I ham.
Nice little groan, and while you were evoking it, we fed the answers into our gas-fired computer, and I'm able to announce that today we have a draw. So they all share today's major prize, which is a Jeroboam of invigorating tonic wine, and I have to make do with the sweet taste of defeat. And until we all meet again, goodbye.
In My Word, Michael O'Donnell was in the chair. The questions were compiled by Peter Moore, and the programme was produced for the BBC by Tony Shrine and Pete Atkin. You've been listening to My Word from the BBC, heard each week at this time.